Hello, Dr. J. It is wonderful to have you on today's episode.
Thank you, Liz. I appreciate it.
So we're going to go ahead and dive in. Can you share with us, what is a little bit of your personal mission when it comes to the people that you serve?
So yeah, my personal mission is to assure that individuals find the best within themselves and build that entrepreneurial mindset. Because we live in a century, or we live in an era where the entrepreneurial mindset is basically the end all be all, in a sense that you're not necessarily a start a business, but you have to think like an entrepreneur for your own career and seek what is best of your interest to assure that others succeed around you, and of course yourself. So I make it my mission to make sure that the entrepreneurial mindset is spread around as to many people as I can touch.
Yeah, and I know you and I have had previous conversations, and for me, I always think about that personal and professional brand.
Yeah.
And we are our own business. And so when you and I connected, and you mentioned about the entrepreneurial mindset, I'm like, yes, this is exactly what people kind of have to think about it in this way. And so you have your own personal experiences and reasons. So you completed your Ph.D. Can you talk about what were some of your professional goals when you completed your doctoral degree?
So, well, one of my professional goals was, of course, when you get a PhD, the thing is, you want to get a tenure track position at a higher education institution, right? That for me, that was the main thing. And that was the that was the main professional goal. Of course, it didn't work out as I seeked it. From finding out what was going on in the world, I didn't know that in academia, where I was clueless, that the majority of my field was basically in K-12 education. And most of those jobs were in places across the country where I potentially didn't probably want to move to. Not that the university wasn't great, but the environment probably wasn't, something that I wanted to start a life in with my, now wife. It's like something I didn't want to build off. And it's a the field right now is very interesting because it's moving away from tenure track faculty and moving more to adjunct or visiting faculty positions. And that's not always a stable position. You don't want to move far away and then all of a sudden, like, you're out of a job within a year and have to move away. So that was my professional goal at that time with the PhD.
So can you talk a little bit about some of those challenges, and then maybe how maybe that influenced the way that you see yourself as as having that entrepreneurial mindset?
Yeah. So, one of the challenges I faced is like, okay, I have a PhD, and what do I do with it? The fortunate thing that I had compared to perhaps other PhDs, especially when I was getting my PhD, was before that I had earned my master's in entrepreneurship from Oklahoma State University, and the entrepreneurship program at Oklahoma State University is a very unique program, one of the top in the country, one of the first to actually have a school of entrepreneurship, basically focused on entrepreneurship. So I had started, two businesses prior to starting my PhD. So I already had that kind of entrepreneurship spirit within me. I got the PhD, was part of business plan competitions, and so being an entrepreneur in the startup world, so I had that going for me. And it's like, so how do I formulate the entrepreneurship, experience I had, the degree? How do I mix that with the PhD that I had in education, with the focus in educational technology? So I had to combine those two to get where I'm at. And so, of course, now how do I go into the marketplace? Basically, the only way really is to work for an ed tech company or start my own thing, if I wasn't going to be the tenure track route. So of course that was a challenge for me. It's like, I have these resources, I have this experience, I have this education. How do I combine it together to make myself more marketable in the workforce, so that someone would hire me? So that was the challenge for me. Is like, who wants to hire someone who has a PhD who could probably replace them in their mindset? So that was of course a big challenge. The other challenge that and I know that a lot of people with PhDs face, is that when they're in their final stages of their PhD, whether that's writing a dissertation, um, or finishing up exams to qualify to be a candidate, is who's going to hire them at a full-time role when they have this other thing going on? Because basically getting a PhD is like a full-time job. And now add that an actual full-time job in the workforce, who's going to hire? So that's another challenge facing during that time. So the challenges were there. It's just that how do you figure out how do you market yourself? I think one of my dissertation advisor, you know, he was done like you have to know how to market yourself and know what correct words to say. That was another challenge that I had to face. Like, okay, what words can I use to properly market myself and not, you know, have, oh look, I have a PhD, so hire me. You know, I kind of had to take that away a little bit and see this is what I've accomplished. This is what I can bring to you, to your company, to your organization.
Yeah, that's a great point. Really knowing the terminology and how to shift from the academia language into industry. So that brings me to my next question, as you kind of alluded to some of this, because there are, you know, a lot of people that are, you know, they get their doctoral degrees, and yes, for many the goal is to do research, to go into teaching, to get that tenure track position. But I've personally worked with a lot of clients that, or and students that have completed PhDs, and that's not the route that they necessarily want to take, or they're not able to for whatever reason, right? So they're like, okay, now I need to go into industry, but I don't have any experience. So they think. What are some strategies that you feel that people can take, you know, whether it's a doctoral degree or even, you know, a graduate degree, to transition into industry, given that academic background?
So I think one of the strategies is that I think one of the first things is you have to take an assessment of your skills and your mindset, right? There's like a lot of other assessment. I know we talked about the entrepreneurial mindset profile assessment. That's just one of many other ones. You probably talked about in your podcast where the other assessments that you could do. So take some type of assessment to assess yourself, see what you can do, see what you have. Go talk to professionals and maybe get like, you know, like a practice interview to see, because sometimes like we speak too academic for a job that's probably not academic. So you need to, step back your verbiage and just talk, and not, you don't want to dumb yourself down, but you want to speak in layman terms. And so you got, how do you present yourself? And of course, build those skills. The thing in academia, especially when getting a doctoral degree, a PhD, is that you're trained a lot in research, and that's not bad at all, but you're trained a lot to do research. You're not trained a lot to do perhaps like consulting work, perhaps to work on Salesforce, like some type of SaaS system like Salesforce. So you probably need to go on one of the strategies, like you don't have to go, you have to go learn more. Probably you're tired of learning, but you're gonna have to go and you're gonna have to take those additional steps and build those skills that unfortunately at the moment a lot of PhD programs don't build on, because right now the PhD programs are built to train the next group of research or experts in the field, not necessarily consultants or other, they don't train you really to be in the 9 to 5 workforce.
No, that's a great point. And of course, it depends on the program, right? So what would you say are some of the transferable skills? So I want you to think about when you were in your doctoral program and all the years that you spent and invested. I'm sure that you have acquired some, amazing skills that people might undervalue, but that they can be applicable when entering the job market or, really marketing yourself. Any ideas there?
Yeah, so one of the things is research, right? I know I talked about research. I think it's very important to build research skills in the sense of finding the right and correct information, right? We live in an era where there's so much information, some of it's not credible. So you build that skill. Okay, what credible sources are out there to back up what I'm trying to say, or the data, right? And a lot of doctoral programs also train you and how to use data systems. The names are not coming in my head right now, but they train you how to collect data and how to present that data, right? A lot of workforces want that. They collect all these surveys, and how do you present all that data into very basic terms, right? And so that's a really wonderful skill. The data you collect and how you output that into and explain it to people. That's one skill. The research skills is another thing that you learn that you can put out in the workforce. Another one is presentation skills, right? A lot of doctoral programs now require you to present at least at 1 or 2 conferences. So building that presentation skills and being able to give a presentation and to answer the question, so what, right? And that's like, you're in the workforce, your boss, your media boss, your CEO or whoever, right? They're gonna be like, so what, like why, like they're going to ask those questions, why and so what. And a lot of doctoral programs, the really good ones, will be able to train you as to answer that question, so what, you know. And you'll have your explanation, and you have your and most importantly, you'll be able to back up that answer, not just say, well, because I know. Well, why do you know? Here it is. So they do, like, I'm not gonna dog it down and bash on doctoral programs. They do a good job. It's just that you need to formulate a way to present those skills that you learned in your program, be able to transform that into the workforce. And you do have it. You just have to look in deep inside in your portfolio, in a sense, to know how to present that. And it really does help. And of course, writing skills is another one too, right? You definitely work on your writing skills at the doctoral level. And so being able to have those writing skills to be able to present your case, maybe you may have to not write so much, right? But condense it down. But you will be able to also have transfer those writing skills.
Yeah, no, those are great. So just to kind of sum up a little bit, so definitely the research skills, right? So the critical thinking,
Yeah.
presentation, and we know that on the job hunt, there's a lot of writing required when you're writing your resume, your cover letter, uh, statements, or whatever the case may be, presentations, right? So a lot of job interviews, for many organizations, they require you to do a presentation for the job interview, right? Or even within the position. So in critical thinking is something that you mentioned, how to articulate, so what.
Yeah.
So that's really, really helpful. And again, as you mentioned, writing skills. Are there any other things that maybe you've leveraged in your own personal experience?
In my own personal experience, kind of that entrepreneurial mindset, in a sense, because I had it, and I've taken the assessment, and so that was me personally that I use. Again, like, how can I use this other stuff and put out my information out there. Now, there's one thing that I did get, like, I already had this before, but it was really taught to me by my advisor, was have your own website and provide your information there. And I think that's another important thing for everybody to know, whether you're doctoral or not. But you need to take ownership of your name and market that name and have that website. I think everybody should at least buy their own domain name with their name on it, because that is your marketing tool now. That's like your global resume, in a sense, because anybody can go to your website and see what you've done. You put up your work up there, whether it's research, videos, or infographics, whatever it may be. You have to put it up there. I think you need to have that. If you don't have that now, you need to work on that now.
Yeah, so it's important to have a digital presence. I know that I do hear a lot of employers saying that they are looking for candidates that have some type of online presence, and to really be intentional about that brand. So can we talk a little bit about, just thinking about professionals that maybe have been in the field of, academia, higher ed, and they're looking to make a transition and really thinking about that brand, because a lot of people don't think about, oh, what is a personal brand, or how do I become intentional? So you mentioned one great strategy, which is having that website, right?
Mhm.
Are there other tools or strategies that people can start thinking about to really establish a more intentional brand? Kind of having that entrepreneurial spirit in mind. Any thoughts around that?
Well, yeah. Well, the website is one. Another one is definitely, you probably touched on LinkedIn. Like, you need to have a LinkedIn. I know a lot of people hesitate, but I think LinkedIn is a must in the professional workforce. So that's another great tool to put yourself out there. And not only is LinkedIn great for to basically, it's like a professional Facebook, as I would call it, right? You put your profile picture, you put you put your job experiences and skill that you have, but also it's also a great way to connect with other individuals. You can be part of groups, and resources come out. And also another great thing is that you can find jobs, right? There's a job board, in a sense, a workplace, a work job board out there in LinkedIn, where you can find jobs near your area or areas that you're looking for, and you can directly apply to those jobs. In the PhD world, or even with like, if you have, like, it asks, what's your degrees, and it can, help you source jobs that you're qualified based on your skill sets. So those are two: the LinkedIn, your website. and those are the things right now in the professional sense. A Twitter account, right? We always think about Twitter as in the best as the hashtags, but the hashtags really do help. And like I've used hashtags like ed tech, education, higher ed, and you look at that hashtag, articles and opportunities can come along just looking at those hashtags, connect with individuals. So there are opportunities as well, even on Twitter. So I think those are the three main things that I would have. And of course, maybe even your YouTube channel, have your own, if you have a Gmail account, you establish your own YouTube channel. That's another one as well.
Yeah, to really establish yourself as an expert, right, in your respective fields. And I think everyone has something to offer, and that's why I feel like we're basically, this is for lack of a better word, like portable, right? So we represent ourselves and our brand, and being able to translate those skills and experiences in a variety of platforms or landscapes, if you will. And so I
Yeah.
think having, like you said, that website, that YouTube channel, your social media presence, that's intimidating for a lot of people.
Yeah, most definitely. It can be.
What do you say for people that are resistant to like LinkedIn? Because I know, I always encourage people, have social media presence, be mindful of what you're putting out there, but definitely LinkedIn. And so I've worked with a lot of professionals that are like, oh, I don't want to put my headshot. I don't want to connect with people that I don't know. They're going to, reject me. Or they have a profile, but they never use it. What are
Yeah.
some of your favorite, LinkedIn tips?
Honestly, like if you're hungry for success, why not LinkedIn? I mean, I honestly don't have the best answer because I just can't understand why people wouldn't want to put this. I mean, unless you're a trust fund baby, fine, you don't need one. But I know most of our communities, not a lot of us are trust fund babies. So you just, if you like, you can't, if you're complaining a lot about the opportunities that are not there and you don't have a LinkedIn, perhaps maybe that's one of the reasons why. It's not the end all be all reason, but it perhaps can be one of the outliers, one of the reasons why. So honestly, like, guess what? If you're sitting on the sidelines and not being present, someone else is taking the opportunity who you're probably more qualified than them, but because that person has a presence in LinkedIn or wherever else, they're taking those opportunities. So if you're on the sidelines, guess what? Someone like me and others are taking the opportunities from you that could have probably been there for you. So hopefully that's a motivation for you because someone like you and I are taking the opportunities. Like we're taking them all. So if you're on the sidelines, hey, there's more opportunities for us and less opportunities for you. And it's not because it's not available for you. It's just that you're not taking the initiative to take those opportunities that are available for you.
Yeah. Okay. So I have to say, I have to mention, because I love it. It's like tough love. And I
Yeah.
watched the video you have, because I know you definitely have online presence. What is it called? You like the real talk? What is the name of the video that the videos
Oh,
you do?
so I created the YouTube channel, Dr. J Real Talk.
Dr. J Real Talk. Okay. I'm just gonna tell my listeners, you have to find it because sometimes you do have to keep it real.
Yeah.
And I just love that about you. When I was listening and watching your video, I was like, yes, it's true. And like you're saying, like, you have to take the initiative. And you're
Yeah.
right. We're not trust fund babies. I know I'm I'm not.
Yeah.
And like we have to hustle. And we talk about how we don't, as first gen, right?
Yeah.
We didn't have the social capital
Yeah.
and people connecting you to opportunities, but you have to build that.
Yeah.
And if you are a career changer, you're moving to another industry, you might essentially have to build that connection,
Yeah.
start from scratch, but that there are tools out there that allow you to do that. I do recognize that it's scary, it's intimidating, but that's like the name of the game, and it's part of that process.
Yeah.
So thank you for keeping it real.
I will say the Dr. J Real Talk name came from my wife because I was trying to come up with a name for it. And she's like, why don't you just end Real Talk? And so that's how it came about. So it was to her. And so yeah.
I'm gonna put that in the show notes. I really, I was watching it. I was like, yeah. I'm like, that's sometimes a little tough love. That's good.
Yeah, that's what if that's what needs to push you to get it, it's got to happen.
Light a little fire. That's right. So I know that you're involved in a variety of things. You have different initiatives and services and programs. Can you talk a little bit about some of the initiatives that you're currently working on?
Man, where do I start? So one of the initiatives right now is to push for more of the entrepreneurial mindset. And so what is a certified entrepreneurial mindset profile assessment. So one of the things one of the things is have people take that assessment is one of my main goals. So if you go to my website, which will be provided for you, so www.fulgenciophd.com, you can connect with me if you want to take that assessment of also, trying to put in more videos on the Dr. J Real Talk YouTube channel. So just Dr. Letter J Real Talk, put that in the search box in YouTube. You'll see the channel, subscribe to it and see those videos. And so, of course, working on a company called LearnGenics, applying learning and development solutions and services. And so that's just some of the initiatives I'm working on currently. There's other things going on as well. And so I'm always just doing things and working because I have these skill sets, I have this knowledge, and it's like I need to put it out there and not just sit on them. So those are just some of the initiatives working again. I'm always post things on my LinkedIn, my website, and of course on my social media accounts. So if you go to my website, you'll see all the social media accounts. You can go on them, follow me, and see what I'm putting out. So that's the thing. And I touched on, like, I'm a fan of cartoons. Like, I will not admit I'm a fan of cartoons. I'm a fan of comic books. I'm not like, I really, really love comic books. So I kind of saw comic books and education. So I started to do if you look at my Twitter, I put up some comic book strips of entrepreneurship. So Jimmy the Entrepreneur gives you some tips on entrepreneurship. So I put those comic strips there. So it's just really quick, like, what is entrepreneurship and how do I find opportunity? So those are some of the things that I'm doing right now.
That's really cool. I'm gonna have to follow you on Twitter. I love that you combine your interests to really drive your message. I'm married to a comic book fanatic.
Yeah.
So I totally get it. I'm always hearing about all the comic books. He's even taken me to Comic-Con. I mean, it's been an interesting journey. I do have a follow-up question. Because you talked about the entrepreneurial mindset profile assessment.
Mm-hmm.
Who can benefit from this assessment? What exactly does that entail?
Students can benefit from it. People working in adults or workforce and corporate America, they can benefit. So basically, it's an assessment of your profile. So it examines the depth and skills and capabilities needed to know what your entrepreneurial mindset is all about. So it's based on personality skills and skills. So it really determines like where your personality is, like your passion, your need to achieve, your risk acceptance, and your skill sets, like your future focus, idea generation, your execution, your self-confidence, to see where you are in the skill sector. Like, do you have an entrepreneurial mindset, or do you just have sort of a workforce? I don't want to call it workforce, but that mindset. Now, that's not the end all be all. Like, just because you rank high in the assessment doesn't mean you're an entrepreneur or the next Jeff Bezos. Every assessment is not the end all be all. As you work with assessments, it's not the end all be all. But it does kind of help put, okay, I thought I had really great execution skills, but I guess knowing the questions that I answered, I may have to maybe work on that a little bit more. Sometimes when I've done this, right, people look at me like, oh, wow, I really thought I had these skills, but I really don't. Or, wow, I didn't know I had these skill sets in me. So that's just, again, it's just really to see where you are in your entrepreneurial mindset. Again, now this assessment itself is not an assessment to determine whether or not you should go start a business, right? Because that's a whole completely different planet, galaxy that you need to get into if you're gonna start your own business. This entrepreneurial mindset, what we're talking about, is being able to use it in the workforce or an organization with the skills that you have to make it better and to make yourself better as well.
Excellent. No, thank you for that clarification. And you're right. With assessments, they're not the end all be all. They're not supposed to be cookie cutter. It's to engage in conversation and maybe uncover some areas that you can excel in or to further explore. All right. So to my listeners, if you are interested in exploring this assessment, definitely contact Dr. J, and I will be putting your LinkedIn profile, your website, your Twitter handle in the show notes so that people can contact you. Any other final thoughts before we wrap up?
No, again, just check out my website, www.jfulgencio.phd.com. Search on YouTube, Dr. J Real Talk. Subscribe to that YouTube channel, and of course, you can find all my social media on my website. And my handles for Twitter, and Instagram are at jphd18. So you can follow me, and I look forward to hearing from you all. And thank you again, Liz, for having me on your podcast. I greatly appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing your expertise, your personal experience. It's been a pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you.
All right, everyone. So thank you for listening. I hope that you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please leave me a review on Apple Podcasts and share this episode with anyone else who you believe or feel can benefit from today's key takeaways. Until next time, this is Liz Herrera, your career coach and job search ally.